The hidden power of Ògún, secrets, protection, and spiritual transformation. What if the obstacle standing in your way is not there to defeat you, but to reveal you? Some paths are not walked, they are cut, through thorns, through silence, through a world that has forgotten how to honor warriors of the spirit. You don't arrive at Gun's Forge by chance. You are summoned. Perhaps you've been hearing it already. The quiet thud in your chest, the metal in your dreams, the recurring signs no one else notices, the feeling that something is pushing you forward, even as everything around you pulls you back. That pressure, that friction, that is the call of iron. Gun is not just an Orisha. He is the first step, the first machete that clears the way when no road exists, the one who descends when others hesitate. In Yoruba cosmology, he is the opener of all paths. In Santeria, in Candomblé, in Palo, he rides alongside the ones who labor, the ones who resist, the ones who cannot afford to wait for salvation. He is the god of iron, war, tools, work, and justice. But even those words are not enough. Ògún is a force, a presence, a mirror, and most of all, he is watching. Many call him in times of desperation, when life is blocked, when enemies multiply, when nothing works and no prayer seems to land. But few truly understand what they are asking for. Ògún does not hand out comfort. He does not entertain weakness, masked as ritual. His protection is not soft. His healing is not quiet. He cuts to restore. He breaks to rebuild. In this journey, we will step into his myth, not as a story, but as a living current. We will explore his role as the path clearer, the protector, the transformer. You will come to understand the iron not as metal, but as memory, as invitation, as truth. You will hear the stories they don't tell publicly, the ways he works in silence, the signs he sends, the tests he puts in your path. You will see why tools hum with spiritual energy, why those who dream of trains, knives, or fire may already be walking with him unknowingly. You'll discover how protection works beyond prayer, why Gun's shield comes only to those who also carry the blade, and you'll face a question only the brave can answer. Are you ready to be forged? This is not a lesson. It is a reckoning. You are not just a student. You are a seeker standing at the edge of transformation, and somewhere, in the shadow of your life, the hammer is already rising. He does not wait. The time to open this path is now. Where fire first spoke his name. Before the first road was ever walked, there was only wilderness. Dense, wild, untouched. The Orishas stood above, looking down upon the chaos of earth. The world needed order, direction, a way forward. Yet none moved, because no one knew where to begin, all but one. Ògún stepped forward. In the sacred cosmology of Ifá, this moment is not myth, it is instruction. While others waited for guidance, Ògún drew his blade, not in arrogance, in clarity. He understood that waiting would not build bridges, that prayer without movement was just silence. And so, with machete in hand, he carved the first path from the spiritual to the physical world, through forest, through resistance, through the unknown. That first strike was more than a cut-through brush. It was the first declaration of spiritual will, the birth of divine motion, and the world would never be the same. Ògún is not a god who was given his power. He earned it, not through inheritance, but through action. He is the embodiment of progress, of work, of force directed by wisdom. Every tool you have ever held, every rail that carried you forward, every nail driven into the bones of creation, they all remember him, because they were born from him. In the African motherlands, he was revered as the divine blacksmith, not just a maker of weapons, but of civilization. He forged tools for farming, for hunting, for building. He taught humanity how to bend nature to purpose without destroying its spirit. Where others worshipped creation, Gun worked with it, shaping it through the alchemy of heat and will. But history would test him. When the chains of colonization came and our ancestors were stolen from their lands, Ògún did not stay behind. He traveled inside the iron cuffs that bound wrists. in the railroad spikes driven through sacred soil, in the machetes used to harvest sugarcane under the burning sun. He was there, not as tormentor, but as silent companion. He walked with those who suffered, not to save them from pain, but to keep their spirit sharp enough to survive it. And it was in the diaspora that Ògún revealed another layer of his essence. Syncretized with saints like St. George, St. James, or St. Peter depending on region, he survived behind the masks colonizers could not see through. When the drums were forbidden, the rhythm moved into the breath. When the names were erased, the symbols remained. The machete, the train, the flame, the fire inside. That is how the Ògún endures, not by comfort, but by evolution. And so, when you feel him now, in your resistance, in your restlessness, it is because he is still carving paths. Inside you, around you, against the systems that silence you. He has not stopped moving. He never does. The only question is, will you move with him? Many today call on him in times of crisis, when life is stuck, when things won't shift. They light candles, pour rum, place iron near the door. But Ògún is not summoned by ritual alone. He is summoned by readiness. He does not respond to fear disguised as devotion. He responds to action. This is why his presence is both a gift and a challenge. When he enters your life, things move. Not slowly, not politely. He clears. He cuts. He forces you forward, often before you feel ready. And that's the point. Growth was never meant to be comfortable. Fire doesn't ask permission before it transforms. And Ògún, he is fire with a purpose. You now understand how the path was opened. How Ògún became not just a figure of myth, but a living force carried across continents, etched into iron, remembered by every soul that chooses forward motion over fear. But a path without direction is just escape. In the next chapter, we leave the origin behind and face the meaning of the metal itself, not as a tool, but as a symbol, not as a weapon, but as a reflection of the self. What does it mean to carry iron in your spirit? The symbolism and spirit of Ògún's tools. Iron is never just iron. To the uninitiated, it is cold, heavy, and lifeless. But to those who walk the spiritual path, especially under the watchful presence of Ògún, it is alive. It listens. It remembers. It vibrates with intention. Every Orisha has their language. Ògún speaks through rivers, Isu through crossroads, Obatala through the whiteness of clarity and peace. But Ògún speaks through metal, not in whispers, but in thunder, in fire. In the weighted silence of tools left on altars and in the echo of hammer against anvil. The machete is more than a blade. It is the edge of choice. It doesn't only cut through forests, but through delusion. When you see it, held high in ritual or resting near the base of an altar, it reminds you that movement is sacred. That stillness, if clung to for too long, becomes stagnation. The machete doesn't ask for perfection, it demands direction. The hammer, Ògún's other signature, is the force of will. The power not just to act, but to strike with purpose. In the hands of the blacksmith, the hammer becomes more than a tool. It becomes a law of the universe. Action creates form. Fire refines truth. Pressure reveals shape. That is the gospel of iron. And then there is the railroad spike, a modern symbol yet deeply ancestral in its energy. It was through railroads that Ògún traveled in the diaspora, whispering to those who laid tracks beneath brutal suns and unspeakable conditions. Those spikes, once pounded into earth, became declarations. We are still here, we are still moving. Even in bondage, motion was not lost, and motion is sacred to Ògún. In Palo Mayombe and Kimbanda, iron tools are buried into sacred earth, charged with the energy of movement and protection. In Santeria, iron implements are part of Ògún's consecrated objects, placed in sacred iron pots known as fundamentos, each piece imbued with a purpose, a voice, a frequency. These tools do not wait to be used. They call to be respected. Left unchecked, they rust. But when honored, they transform. The spiritual lesson is simple, yet profound. You are the tool. Every decision you make sharpens or dulls you. Every truth you avoid adds weight you cannot carry. Every ritual without intention rusts your soul. That's the hidden message of iron. It's not only about protection, it's about reflection. Iron holds no emotion, yet reveals all. It shows you how disciplined your spirit really is, how ready or unwilling you are to forge your own way. And here is where the psychology meets the spiritual. Metal doesn't bend easily. It must be heated, struck, held, moved. And you, if you walk with gun, must accept the same process. Your transformation will not come through gentle affirmations or borrowed prayers. It will come through fire, friction, and force. This is why gun symbols are feared and revered, because they carry not only power, but consequence. If you call on him with falsehood in your heart, if you place metal on your altar while hiding from your own truth, you will feel resistance. His energy does not align with illusion. That's what makes him different from other protective spirits. He does not protect who you pretend to be. He protects who you are willing to become. And so, the question arises, what tools are already lying at your feet? Have you ignored the machete within you because you feared what it might cut? Have you refused the hammer because you were not ready to build? Your gun is not just asking you to call on him. He is asking you to remember that the iron is already in your blood. But power without purpose is just chaos. In the next chapter, we will explore the true role of Gun as the path clearer, not just in legend, but in your daily life. We will see how his energy doesn't just protect, but breaks open the way, and how sometimes what looks like destruction is actually divine redirection. Gun, the opener of paths. Some doors open with keys, others only with force, and there are some that were never meant to open until our gun arrives. The world we walk through today is filled with roads, highways, city streets, crossroads lined with signs. But before the first footstep, before the first map, before the first spoken direction, there was only nature, dense, wild, unmoving. It was Gun who first took the blade to the chaos, not to destroy it, but to shape it, not to erase the forest, but to create the passage. This archetype is not only historical, it is internal. When you feel blocked, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, it is not coincidence that your prayers begin to sound like a cry for direction. And it is not accident that Ògún's name begins to rise from the depth of your spirit. He is not the god of ease. He is the god of movement. His energy doesn't ask you to meditate your way out of pain. It pushes you. Sometimes through discomfort, sometimes through drastic change, but always with purpose. Ògún clears paths not because he seeks chaos, but because he understands that stagnation is a spiritual poison. In Yoruba tradition, Ògún's machete doesn't just cut trees, it cuts through resistance, through illusion, through spiritual fog. And in Afro-Caribbean diasporas, his force became the breath behind every march toward liberation. Enslaved workers built roads and laid train tracks under whips and curses, yet the rhythm of the hammer and spike carried spiritual purpose. It wasn't just survival, it was Ògún, clearing space for those yet to come. In Santeria and Candomblé, when a person's life becomes stuck, when jobs collapse, when relationships suffocate, when depression thickens, it is often said that the path is blocked. And who is called to clear it? Ògún. But his arrival is rarely silent. When he enters, things shift. Fast. Sometimes dramatically. The toxic friendship ends overnight. The job falls apart. The move you feared is forced upon you. And people say, everything's falling apart. But the wise know better. Everything's clearing out. Because Ògún doesn't come to rearrange what's killing you. He comes to destroy it. He doesn't walk around the problem. He goes through it. And if you resist his energy, if you cling to the very thing that's poisoning you, his presence will feel like war. But if you surrender, if you trust the blade, his energy becomes freedom. Here lies the paradox of spiritual growth. We pray for peace, but what we really need is a storm. Ògún brings that storm, and when it passes, there is space where there was once suffocation. There is breath where there was once choking routine. There is a new road where there was once only forest. But beware of misreading the signs. Sometimes the path does not appear as opportunity. Sometimes it appears as loss. And yet, behind that loss is always the same voice, whispering from the forge, "Now, walk." This is why a gun is called first in many rituals. Without movement, no spirit can flow. Without space, no change can anchor. He is the one who makes room for everything else. Even your ancestors call on him to help their messages reach you. Even your own destiny bends to his blade. And so, when you find yourself at a standstill, when everything in you wants to move but nothing around you does, understand this. You're not stuck. You're being watched. The path is being measured. The forest is waiting for the strike. But are you? In the next chapter, we step into the deeper layer of this warrior's presence. Not just how he clears, but how he protects. Not only from the obvious enemies, but from the unseen forces that feed on your doubt. Guns, protection, and the spiritual code of war. Protection is not silence. It is not passive. It is not invisibility. True spiritual protection is presence. It is posture. It is the weight you carry when you walk into a room and the spirits fall silent. Not because you shouted, but because something ancient walks with you. Orisha Ògún is not a wall that hides you. He is the blade that walks in front of you. When people ask for protection, what they often want is insulation, comfort, the assurance that life will not touch them. But Ògún offers no such illusion. He does not bubble wrap your spirit. He does not promise you won't bleed. What he promises is that no wound will be wasted, that when the fire comes, you will have the iron to endure it, and the sword to answer. The question is not whether Ògún will protect you. The question is whether you are the kind of soul he protects. He walks with the honest, the relentless, the disciplined, the ones who don't just pray, but prepare, the ones who don't use his name to hide their cowardice, but to activate their courage. You don't summon Ògún to do the fighting for you. You invoke him to become the one who can fight for others. He protects those who have chosen their truth, no matter how much it costs them. In Afro-Caribbean traditions, this protection is not only spoken, it is built. Iron is placed at the door, under beds, in pockets, inside altars. It is consecrated, baptized, fed. It becomes more than metal. It becomes a spiritual barrier, a declaration that says, this body is guarded, this path is watched, this home is armed with something far older than fear. But even iron rusts when neglected. Ògún's shield requires maintenance, not just in offerings, but in integrity. If you live in lies, if you say yes when your spirit says no, if you betray your mission in favor of comfort, his energy will recoil. He doesn't protect the mask. He protects the soul beneath it. And that means your protection depends on how willing you are to live without masks. Still, when he stands with you, his presence is unmistakable. You'll feel it in the moment before danger, when your chest tightens, not from fear, but alertness. When you turn corners with a strange sense of timing, just avoiding something that could have broken you. When someone curses you but their words fall like dust before reaching your spirit. That's Ògún, not loud, not showy. Just there, standing behind you like the force of 1,000 years of resistance. And he does not only protect from people, he guards against energies, thoughts, intentions, the subtle poisons that drift through conversations, the ancestral pain carried by bloodlines, the inner saboteur that says, you're not ready. He shields you by sharpening you. Because the deepest protection is not what keeps things out. It's what keeps you in alignment. There is a reason warriors clean their blades after every battle, not just for sharpness, but for clarity. To remove the energy of the fight. Ògún teaches the same. Protect yourself, yes, but not with fear, with focus, with fire, with the daily act of choosing who you are, again and again. This is why, in ritual, Ògún is often invoked with fire, rum, and the striking of metal. Each act calls him not just to defend, but to awaken the part of you that knows you are not here to hide. That the world may be filled with enemies, but none more dangerous than your own inaction. So ask yourself, are you protected? or are you simply unseen? To walk with Gun is to be visible, to be marked, to be a presence that the spirit world respects not because of your power, but because of who walks beside you. But what happens when the enemy is not outside? What happens when the battlefield is within? In the next chapter, we explore the invisible war, the war no one sees, but everyone fights, and how Ògún steps into that darkness, not just to fight with you, but to forge a new version of yourself. Ògún, shadow work, and the internal war. Some battles leave scars on the body, others leave wounds you carry in silence. Not every war is fought with swords. Some are waged with whispers, inside your own mind, your own spirit, your own history. This is the terrain where Ògún becomes more than a warrior. He becomes a surgeon of the soul. In spiritual traditions, people often look outward for threats. They search for hexes, enemies, envy, bad luck. And yes, those forces exist. But the most potent curses are not cast by others. They are the ones we inherit, repeat, or create within. These are the chains around Ògún breaks that no one else sees. When you feel stuck in patterns, abandonment, sabotage, betrayal, and they show up again and again, despite your best intentions, that is not coincidence. That is programming. That is inherited trauma speaking through your choices. And Ògún, in his raw honesty, is not here to soothe you. He is here to show you the knife you've been using against yourself. Shadow work is not separate from his energy, it is essential to it. In Yoruba and diasporic mysticism, the Orisha are not just external gods to be worshipped. They are archetypes that awaken forces within you. Ògún is not only in the forge, he is in your spine when you stand up for yourself. He is in your throat when you say what others fear to, and he is in your shadow, the part of you you've been avoiding, burying, denying. That anger, he asks you to look at it. That shame, he tells you to hold it to the fire. That fear, he dares you to turn it into fuel. He does not judge what you carry, but he refuses to let you carry it unconsciously. In ritual, when Ògún is called, the room shifts. Some cry, some tremble, some begin to scream or move uncontrollably. That's not possession, it's exposure. He brings to the surface what has been buried, the ancestral grief, the unshed tears, the unspoken rage, not to harm you, but to liberate you. And it is not always dramatic. Sometimes his presence is quiet, a heaviness that descends in the middle of a casual day, a sudden clarity that breaks through your denial, a dream where you're forging metal, sweating, facing the version of you that you've run from. This is the battlefield within. And Ògún doesn't just stand guard. He demands you fight. He offers tools, yes, but they are useless if you refuse to wield them. You must name what holds you back. You must break the cycles you swore were unbreakable. You must see where you still betray yourself and choose differently. That is the deepest form of protection he offers, self-sovereignty. Because when the war inside you ends, nothing outside can defeat you. But there is something even more sacred in this internal war. Every piece of yourself you reclaim becomes part of your offering. Every shadow you integrate becomes a weapon of wisdom. Every healed wound becomes armor. Ògún doesn't just want your praise, he wants your wholeness. And the truth is this: when you do the internal work, when you stop outsourcing your power and start sharpening it, his energy meets you with fire so pure, it changes your path forever. You stop being the one calling for help. You become the one others call when they need a warrior. And Ògún stands beside you, not just as protector, but as witness to your becoming. So now the question isn't, will he fight for me? It is, will I fight for myself? Because when you say yes to that question, truly, fully, without excuse, you don't just walk with Ògún. You become the forge. And once that fire is lit inside you, there is no going back. In the next chapter, we step into the sacred invitation. The moment Ògún no longer just tests you, but calls you. What does it mean to feel chosen by him? And what happens when you answer the call? When Ògún chooses you. Not every spirit you follow is one you chose. Some spirits choose you. And when Ògún calls, it is not with flowers. It is not with sweetness or dreams of ease. He calls with pressure, with fire, with a feeling that the life you once tolerated has become unbearable. He doesn't whisper. He roars through your disappointments, breaks your illusions, and tears open the patterns you thought were permanent. To be chosen by Ògún is to be thrust into transformation, ready or not. But the calling rarely looks like what people expect. It doesn't always come in ceremony. Sometimes it's a sudden need to clear your space, to cut ties, to quit a job, to start walking, without knowing where you're going. It can begin with rage that makes no sense, with dreams of tools, fire, warriors, or roads, with a moment of grief that erupts like a volcano from within. These are not coincidences. These are summons. Because Ògún doesn't knock. He kicks the door open. Across diasporic traditions, initiates and spiritualists tell stories of sudden radical change when Ògún entered their lives, illness that made no medical sense, accidents that became spiritual interventions, losses that cracked the soul open. And in each story, there is a pattern. The life before him was smaller, more controlled, less alive. The life after, raw, wild, honest. That is the price of the forge, because Ògún does not call you to comfort. He calls you to purpose, and purpose is demanding. It doesn't let you hide in people-pleasing or procrastination. It doesn't let you dilute your gifts. It doesn't let you ignore your ancestors' voices screaming through your bloodline, saying, "Enough." To walk with Ògún is to walk through fire and emerge with your true name, and he does not choose lightly. His children, his devotees, even those under his protection without formal initiation, they are marked, spiritually, energetically. They often feel like outsiders, even in spiritual spaces. They struggle to rest when their mission is unclear. They attract conflict not because they seek it, but because their energy disrupts what's false. They are constantly moving, rebuilding, fighting, not for chaos, but for clarity. But with that calling comes alignment. When Ògún chooses you, he begins to place people, opportunities, tools, and messages in your path. You begin to feel what is off before anything happens. Your body becomes a compass. Your energy becomes harder to manipulate. Your voice begins to carry authority, not from ego, but from lived truth. And if you ignore the call, he will wait, but not forever. There is a moment in every seeker's life when ignoring the spiritual call becomes more painful than answering it. Things will stop working. Synchronicities will intensify. Relationships will dissolve. And deep inside, a knowing will rise. I cannot go back. I must become who I truly am. That's when the real work begins. Because to answer Ògún's call is not simply to pray or offer iron. It is to become the iron. It is to enter the forge willingly, to strip away everything that was built on fear, to let go of who you were told to be, to choose the road no one else wanted to walk. And here lies a sacred truth. The call is not the end of the struggle. It is the beginning of your transformation. It is the first step into a life of purpose that burns clean through everything false. Ògún does not call the perfect. He calls the willing. And if you are still here, still listening, still breathing with the heat of these words in your chest, maybe he's calling you. But how do you know for sure? What are the signs, the dreams, the synchronicities that reveal his presence? And who walks with him in the shadows? In the next chapter, we explore the signs of Ògún's presence, the spirits who walk beside him, and how to recognize his fingerprints across the timeline of your life. Reading the presence of Ògún, not all spirits knock on the front door. Some enter through dreams, through symbols, through moments that crack the veil just long enough for you to feel watched. Ògún rarely announces himself directly. Instead, his energy shows up in synchronicities that grow louder the more you ignore them. You'll begin to notice certain symbols over and over. A train in a dream, a machete on a mural, an iron horseshoe on the ground where it shouldn't be. You'll feel it in your body, heat rising without explanation, adrenaline pulsing through moments that seem small. It's not fear, it's memory, because your spirit already knows him. Dreams are a common portal. You may find yourself walking railroad tracks, surrounded by tools, or facing a figure made of smoke and steel. Sometimes, Ògún appears as a soldier, other times as a man cloaked in green and black, standing at a gate or crossroads. You may feel chased, tested, protected, all in the same night. Because Ògún's dreams are not comfort, they are initiation. But the most undeniable sign of his presence is disruption. When he walks into your life, things break, quickly. The job that's been draining you suddenly ends. The relationship you've outgrown crumbles. The city you're trapped in begins to push you out. What felt stable turns unstable. And though it feels like loss, something deeper is happening. He's clearing the way. That's the message in every sign. Movement. When Ògún sends signs, he's not just sending a message, he's sending a push, and he rarely sends them alone. In many Afro-Caribbean systems, Ògún walks with spiritual allies, energies that amplify, balance, or reveal different aspects of his force. In Santeria, he is often paired with Elegua, the trickster and messenger who governs crossroads. Elegua opens the door, but Ògún clears the road beyond it. Together they represent choice and movement, destiny and action. In Palo Mayombe, similar energies walk with him. Spirits of the dead, warriors, ancestral protectors who walk between the worlds. These are not light-hearted guides. They are fierce, disciplined, and loyal. They don't respond to fear. They respond to responsibility. If you carry Ògún's energy, these spirits may start appearing in your dreams, rituals, or even during moments of solitude. They don't speak in words. They show up in signs, and your body will know, I'm not alone. You may also feel pulled toward metal, to crafting, to forging things with your hands, to working with heat, discipline, and repetitive motion. You may feel drawn to locomotion, trains, cars, bicycles, anything that moves, or drawn to fire, bonfires, welding, candles that crackle unnaturally. These pulls are not random. They are echoes, memories from your soul's lineage. Ògún doesn't ask you to believe blindly. He shows, but it is up to you to see. Some ignore the signs, dismissing them as coincidence. Others become obsessed, seeing Ògún in everything. Neither path brings clarity. What he wants is not obsession, but awareness. He wants you awake, alert, ready. And once you begin to see him, really see him, you realize he was never absent. That he stood in that hospital room when you didn't know if you'd make it. That he whispered, "Leave now," just before the crash. That he was the reason you survived what broke others. That he was not just protecting you, but preparing you. His signs are not just about what's coming. They are about what you carry, and when the signs align with the shift inside you, when the dreams match the waking call, then the next step becomes clear. You are not here just to witness Ògún's power. You are here to live it. In the final chapter, we explore how to walk the path with purpose, not just how to invoke him, but how to live aligned with his force. Because ritual is not performance, it is preparation. And the life that follows must be worthy of the fire that forged it. Living with your Ògún beyond the ritual. You've heard his myth. You've felt the strike of his blade in your soul. You've seen how he clears, how he protects, how he calls. But none of it matters, none of it lives, unless it becomes part of your daily walk. Ògún is not a spirit to visit once a year during ritual. He is a presence to carry, a force to embody, a path that must be walked, not just honored. Many think invocation is the peak of spiritual connection. Pour the rum, strike the iron, say the prayers, feel the power. But invocation is only the door. It's what you do afterward that makes you worthy of walking with him. To live aligned with Ògún is to live with discipline, not just in ritual, but in action. How do you handle resistance? How do you show up when you're tired, scared, angry? How do you move when the way is unclear and no one claps for your effort? These are the questions Ògún asks, not in words, but through your life. His offerings aren't just physical, they are choices. When you tell the truth instead of hiding behind silence, you are offering him your voice. When you stand your ground without aggression, you are offering him your strength. When you break a generational curse by doing what no one else dared, you are offering him your will. And yes, rituals matter. Cleanse your tools, feed your spirits, pour the rum, place the iron. But don't mistake action for alignment. If your daily life contradicts your spiritual work, you're not in rhythm, you're in rebellion, not against a gun, but against your own evolution. Living with a gun means being ready to move when the call comes, ready to cut ties when the path demands it. Ready to fight not just the enemy outside, but the saboteur within. He doesn't expect perfection. He expects honesty. He expects motion. And that means choosing a kind of sacred discomfort. Ògún's children often live lives filled with change, movement, fire. Their paths are not smooth. Their challenges are not light. But their impact is undeniable. They carry presence, authority, weight, not from dominance, but from living close to the blade. And in that presence, others begin to shift. When you carry Ògún, you don't need to say much. Your walk speaks. Your boundaries speak. Your decisions create new maps for those watching in silence. And suddenly, you become more than a seeker. You become a guide. But even guides must remain students. So stay close to the fire. Return to the forge often. Let yourself be reshaped, not once, but again and again. Every new version of you will carry sharper purpose, cleaner truth, deeper power. Let Ògún's lessons live in your hands. Let your hands create. Let your life build. Let your words cut with love and your silence hold integrity. And when you pray, don't ask for ease. Ask for alignment. Ask to see clearly. Ask to move with courage. He will answer. Not always with blessings, sometimes with storms, sometimes with loss, but always with clarity. Because Ògún never gives you what you want. He gives you what you need to become who you truly are. You are no longer at the beginning. The blade has been drawn. The path has been cleared. The fire is yours to carry. But before you walk on, there is one final reflection. In the next and final section, we close this journey, not with a farewell, but with a question that only you can answer. Now the forge is silent. The tools are still. The path lies before you, open, yet unwalked. You have not just learned about Ògún. You have felt him. You have heard the fire in his myths, touched the iron in your bones, faced the internal wars that call for your courage. And now at the edge of this journey there is no audience, no ceremony, just you and the decision. Ògún does not need followers. He does not require adoration. What he desires, what he demands, is authenticity. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be fearless. But you do have to move, to act, to live in alignment with the truths that have been knocking on your spirit long before this video found you. So ask yourself now, while the presence is still near, what in your life needs to be cut away? What lie are you still living? What part of you has been waiting for permission to rise? Because Ògún will not give you permission. He gives you power, and power unused is just potential buried in fear. This moment is not about inspiration. It's about initiation. The kind that doesn't need candles or chants, but a simple sacred choice to live differently, to walk sharper, to burn cleaner, to lead with fire and not be consumed. So here is your final offering, not to Ògún, but to yourself. In the comments, speak the truth you've been afraid to name. Write it with the weight of your full presence. Share what path you are clearing, what shadow you are cutting through, what forge you are ready to enter. Not for applause, but for accountability. And if this video awakened something in you, if you felt seen, challenged, sharpened, then stay close. Subscribe. Share this message with someone who walks in silence but carries fire. Someone who needs to remember that their battle is sacred. In our next journey, we go even deeper, into the hidden spirits who walk beside Ògún. Ancestors, shadows, forces that protect and test, forces you may already be feeling. But for now, sit with what's been stirred. The blade is yours now. The road is open. Walk with fire. Speak with iron. And remember, The forge never forgets those who choose transformation.